Hi there folks, Skulkin140 back once again to do another anime review today. I haven't done one of these in a little while because... Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start off right now and say that whenever I do any of the anime reviews that I'm going to do, I'm always going to go ahead and start off by saying I haven't done one of these in a while because it always takes a while for me to get into the mood to watch the anime that I want to talk about and make sure that I don't miss anything important. So that's why I haven't done one of those in a while, so that's that out of the way. Now, today we're going to talk a little bit about a classic that I saw many years ago that I've recently watched again, just to see if it was good, if it's as good now as it was back when I watched it and back when it was still popular. And while I wouldn't exactly say it's popular now, I think it managed to at least hold some degree of popularity back during the 90s when anime was still good. And I think in a lot of ways, this does manage to have some unique value in terms of storytelling and animation that I think most anime now doesn't really seem to do that much of. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Detonator Orgun, this nice classic right here. Now, a little bit of backstory, of course. I first saw Detonator Orgun many years ago, back during the early 2000s, on the Sci-Fi Channel, back when it was called the Sci-Fi Channel, around midnight. During a weekday, and I have this recorded on a VHS tape, and I recorded it and I watched it non-stop, over and over again, just to take in so much of what was going on with the storytelling and the animation and the character models, and the music and the atmosphere that happened throughout this. And while it was good back then, when I saw it in my teens, it was good back then. It's a little bit weird seeing it now because it overloads you with a lot of nostalgia, and a lot of things do, but that's just how it is. But Detonator Orgun is one of those that's kind of really weird in terms of the director who directed this as well, because this was directed by Masami Obari, and Masami Obari sadly is one of those directors that nowadays is a bit derided for a lot of different reasons, because Masami Obari is known for directing things like Voogie's Angel, Varsbuster Surge, and Gravion, and not many people talk about Varsbuster Surge because everyone is aware of how crap it is. But of course, Masami Obari is known for nowadays directing a lot of direct-to-DVD hentai films, which I never really watched any of them, so I really couldn't comment on them. But it's sad to see a good director kind of really fall down the gap at the start of the 21st century. But that's just how it is, sadly. So Detonator Orgun, I would say, is his best achievement, I guess you can say. But it manages to hold up a little bit well. And the story, of course, was written by... I'm trying to find it now. The story of this was written by Hideki Kakinuma, who wrote the stories to Gale Force and Bubblegum Crisis. And he is quite a well-known writer in terms of science fiction anime, so that's just how it is. Now, the story, I'm not going to go in... I won't go too much into the plot without spoiling it, but the plot of this revolves around a college student named Tomaru Shindo, who is a bored and somewhat unmotivated, very uninterested character who wants a little bit of excitement in his life. So, with only 5 months away till graduation, he can't really decide what to do with his life, so he's thinking about joining the Earth Defense Force, a space force that's known for protecting the Earth from a lot of calamities that happen all over the Earth, and of course happen in space as well. And throughout all this as well, we hear from the prophetess Kumi Jefferson that destruction will rain down upon the Earth, and the Earth will be cast down with the Sodomites. Not in those exact same words, but you can see where this is going. So she's a bit of a prophetess in that she's able to predict the future. And the one important thing that happens throughout this as well is that Tomaru is having a strange dream where he is escaping mechanical monsters and he is protecting a girl from these monsters. And whilst that's going on, a mech by the name of Orgun shows up and tells Tomaru that he shouldn't run away and that he must fight to protect that which he loves. And the thing about Orgun as well is that Orgun, it's a bit hard to really say, but Orgun is a member of an alien race known as the Avara Yuda. And the Avara Yuda, I think the best way to really describe them as, are a hybrid race that are, long or short, just people in mechanical suits. That doesn't sound very good me describing it, but you have to really watch it just to really get the idea. But the race, of course, is led by Lady Meek, who is the supreme High Empress, the High Commander of this whole empire. And her second in command, of course, is Commander Zoa, who is a bloodthirsty, somewhat ruthless, sadistic tyrant who doesn't care who he kills. The only thing that he wants is to please his Empress, Commander, and just make sure that he gets what he wants in regard to that. So, Orgun betrayed his race cast out his race from one corner, well, pretty much left his race behind, went to the moon, and then went to the Earth, because he is trying to find something to protect. He left to try and protect something that he wanted to protect the most. And the whole theme that runs throughout the series as well is that Tomorrow, of course, well, Tomorrow and Orgun are linked together in a very strange way. That doesn't make much sense, but I'll try to explain. Orgun, well, the Avara Yuda, of course, are based off of the characters that are throughout this anime, in that Lady Meek, of course, spoiler, is based off of the human character Kumi Jefferson. They both share the same voice, and they both share the same bland personality, if that makes any sense. And Tomorrow and Orgun, of course, are the one and the same character. Orgun, of course, is everything that Tomorrow isn't, in that he is, of course, a protecting character, and Tomorrow just wants to live in peace. He doesn't really want to fight anybody. But when, of course, he's faced with the turning point in his life, and when he's faced with with some motivation from the Earth Defense member, I'm trying to think of her name. Yoko Mitsurugi. When of course he is given some motivation from Mitsurugi, Mitsurugi then says, "If you don't want to fight, that's fine. But if you want to find something to protect, you have to really stand up and fight. You have to protect that which you love." So that's the turning point for Tomorrow Shindo, is that when he's trying to find the one thing that he protects, the one thing to protect something that he really that he really loves the most. That's when the character really starts to play a crucial moment in this. And the other character as well, because there's another important character in this, is the Professor Mishi Kanzaki, who of course is a member of the Earth Defense Force, who uses her computer Isaac to basically decrypt what goes on behind the scenes with the Avara Yuda. And when we first are introduced to Miss Kanzaki, she of course comes across as being what would a lot of people consider in anime to be the stereotypical nerd, and being the out-of-date hairstyle and the big, wide glasses that kind of make her, as Tomorrow says, bad for her image. I don't think that's possible, but just go with it. So she plays an important role in this, in that she acts as the love interest to Shindo, and when Tomorrow Shindo is trying to find the one thing that he wants to protect, Mishi Kanzaki is the one thing that keeps Tomorrow going. It's the one thing that gives him the motivation to protect that which he loves. And it's interesting to see these characters come out of their shell, but at the same time, though, the pacing of this is disastrously slow. It's very slow, and it takes a while for the action to really get to the specific parts of this. So it's a case of it's a case of pressing the fast forward button on the DVD remote to just get to the action in this. But with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the animation, because the animation, for me at least, is what's the most important part of this, that helped become the highlight of this anime. AIC, Artmix Studios and Dots were in charge of a lot of the production that went on throughout the OVA. The action and the fight scenes are very well animated and detailed flawlessly, and managed to keep the action going for a good length of time. Michitaka Kikuchi, who designed a lot of the characters in this, did a good job of making the characters well stylized and detailed. The mechanical designer, Hiroyuki Hataike, managed to make the designs for the Avara Yuda as well as Orgun well detailed and a lot of contrast to the look of some of the machines. Now, a little bit of information regarding the English dubs of this, because I say dubs, not just dub, but they're English dubs. There you go. A little bit of information regarding the dubs. Now, from what I can gather, there were two English dubs of this. There was one that was dubbed in the UK, like many others that were done back before anime, back before it was a cult phenomenon. It was dubbed in the UK. I think it was dubbed in Wales. And while the dub of that it's a bit of a hit and miss in a lot of ways, because there are some of the voices that didn't work, and there were some that just didn't sound right, and there weren't really that many recognizable talents that I could really think of outside of the two, which were Joanna McInnes, who played Mishi Kanzaki, who of course played Ella Ragu in Shadow Skill, and of course Bill Roberts, who is a recognizable name outside of voice acting, who of course played Briarios in the in the OVA version of Appleseed, who plays Commander Zoa. Those are the only two names that I can really think of. But other than that, though, the dub, of course, is a bit of a mixed bag in that some of the voices just sound okay. Some of them just sound a little bit not like they're not even trying, but what are you going to do? And, of course, there was the other dub, which was dubbed in back in 2001, which was released by Central Park Media, which I haven't really seen, so I really can't offer any comment on it, but I would like to actually see it, because from what I've heard, the dub of that sounds far more better than the dub on this version of the anime, on this version of Detonator Orgun. And it has talents like Ted Lewis, who, if you know who he is, go look him up. But that's really all I can say about the dub. And the original dub of this is a mixed bag, and it can fall flat on its face quite quickly, whereas the other one, I would like to know. So if anybody knows, you know. But there are a lot of things about this that really stand out, in that there's another thing which kind of really becomes a bit of a problem, in that a lot of people have asked, why does Orgun, the mech in this, look so much like the famous anime character Techno Man? And there's a reason behind that. It's because the third episode of this was released in 1993. This came along in 1993 as well, so I'm not sure if this got the idea for this, but ideas came about, so that's really all you can say about that. So the two look the same. It's not important. They're not identical. They're not in the same universe. Just go with it. There really aren't that many flaws I can really think of this, except if you look at it now, you can see that it hasn't really aged that well, and it's a bit dated. But then again, a lot of old school anime is, and you can say that about just about anything that was back during the 80s and the 90s. But I think for what it's worth, there were some good things about this that made it quite good, and there were some things that just made it a little bit bad, like the UK dub, which Bill Roberts was the only one that worked, but there you go. The one thing that we didn't really get out of this was any character development, in that we were able to establish characters like Tomaru Shindo, who of course has a fascination with the 20th century. We see him walking in a museum, and we see him observing a lot of World War I and World War II aircraft. We see him looking at models of famous incidents throughout Earth's history, but we don't really know anything about the other characters like Michi Kanzaki. All that we know is that she has a computer named Isaac. We don't know anything about the Avara Yuta. We don't know that much about Orgun, except that he left the Avara Yuta to protect something important to him. We don't know anything about Kumi Jefferson. We know that she's a prophetess, but we don't really know that much about her. So really, I think that they had potential to develop the characters in this, but it just kind of went by without anyone really even noticing. So I think for what it's worth, there are a few things that make this a little bit obscure, but for what it's worth, I think it was able to do what it needed to do to keep a lot of people entertained. So, all in all, what can you really say about Detonator Orgun? My final thoughts on Detonator Orgun are as follows. The story of Detonator Orgun, while it's confusing to follow, managed to tell a decent sci-fi adventure. The characters, while there was not much development managed in this, played some importance in this as well. The fight scenes and animation were well handled, and the score by Susumu Hirasawa, while repetitive as it got, managed to keep some of the scenes in this going at a good length. So I think really at the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. Detonator Orgun is one of those classics that really needs to be seen to believe, and it just goes to show that they don't make anime like this anymore, with well-animated scenes like this, and over-the-top action, and a somewhat mildly confusing plot. It really stands the test of time, and really manages to keep itself at a good height. Is it perfect by any means? No, it's not, but really, what are you going to do? Nothing ever is perfect, so take it or leave it as it is. So, would I recommend it? Well, if you want a good science fiction adventure, if you love giant fighting robots, I would recommend it highly, but don't take the story for granted. I mean, take it with a pinch of salt. And if you want a better dub, I would recommend you watch the Central Park Media dub. As much as I would like to voice my own opinion on it, I would like to know if anyone thinks that dub is better than this one, but somehow I don't know if that's possible, but we'll see about that. So anyway, this has been the anime review of Detonator Orgun. I will try to make sure that any anime review that I do in the future is kept to some month-length degree, because it will take a while before I can ever review one again for a little bit, because, no Next one I review will probably be Rojan Z, but that won't be for a couple of months, so keep your patience on until then if you really are that interested to watch what I do. So anyway, this has been Detonator Orgun, and I'm Skulkin140. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you all next time.